Giri Dora Geshe Tsultim Gyeltsen Jawa Tantimba Gyeshes Soju Traye de Jatembra Dele Yo Sanje Yeme Do Tamaru Yede Jembande Sanje Jendo Mede Bumai Rokunanda Kena Shubur Sho Edam Guru Dana Mandala Neyadaya Me Sanje Chudon Shakyu Bardo Dane Shamsuch Dage Jugyu Jibe Sonam Dola Pesha Sanje Andrubarakyo Sanje Chudon Chodamula Shakyu Bardo Dane Shamsuch Dage Jugyu Jibe Sonam Dola Pesha Sanje Andrubarakyo Sanje Chudon Soje Chudon Shakyu Bardo Dane Shamsuch Dage Jugyu Jibe Sonam Dola Pesha Sanje Andrubarakyo. Ola so majuna gitata yimbe singe tamji ji tendo tojala na me bayanda bazube sanji ji kumparam be kene ji tobra shagu te tobra shawi chedo tambe kyeram bo ji senya be kono chanju ji semji se sembe gonne sempre kyo.
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings, and with that kind of bodhichitta motivation that we should all participate in this teaching.
ngaran chu ta ndu sin ya chodi san zan me ni kan ndu sin chodi san ne dangbo de ne i sanskrit ke thole ne ta shamru chi ge bas je ta shamru chi ge ke chim bor gare se na ane ta tiba chi ge yen te thang ji zao de ne shamru tu yo res shamru de tiba chi ge de thang ji je ni ta sa yin da bri yiman da bri.
I think I should take a little bit of time this morning to explain something about these prayers we do before our Sunday teaching. And as we have just done, we take refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha by using Sanskrit language. As we say, Namo Guru Be, I go for refuge in Guru, and so on. And it's very important for us to understand the importance of refuge practice. Taking refuge in the three jewels, three Ratnas, is the foundation practice for us to be able to actualize all the remarkable qualities explained in both Theravadan and Mahayana forms of Buddhism.
So soon Yalesha Kunju Sandonja Maris Karin Shamru Deni, Ta Yunte Tangi Jeta Yeta Ten of Chagres, Pena, Radishon Yen Tambo Aneta, Shamdu Ninju Sambe, Simbitoneta, Shambushi, Dayton and Rajung Dombale. Atahana Yishanju Samba and the Shanjus with Dombalamba, Shambu Hundrogores. Shapsu, Conjus Shamru Mena, Shanjus with Dombitan Yamar. Tahana Yitang Halan Jubin Hagen Chevena. And Sanjo Ranjuli Mena, and I Shangi Sembi Doba Togo, Shangi Sembi Doba, Hadom Toyamar, Sonsa, Domba Tangish and those things, and Chachimashi.
We must not underestimate the essentiality and importance of taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as if it is a very basic and simple kind of a practice. There are many reasons, but just to explain some of them, taking refuge in the three jewels is the basis and foundation for for taking all kinds of Buddhist ethics and vows for our spiritual attainments. Those who have taken monastic ordination as monks and nuns, based upon cultivating renunciation, then they go for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, so which becomes the basis for receiving monastic ordination. In the same way, those who have taken bodhisattva ethics or the vows and commitments, which are on a higher level, again, bodhisattva ethics and vows are given on the basis of taking refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And those who have taken the tantric ethics of the vows and commitments, or Vajrayana ethics, again, these are also given on the basis of taking refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So the point I'm trying to make here is this, that refuge practice, we call Kyamdo in Tibetan, going for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, is so important. It's the foundation practice and it's the basis for receiving all kinds of ethics. Without taking refuge, one cannot receive monastic ordinations. One cannot receive bodhisattvas. Without bodhisattva vows, one cannot receive tantric vows or the ethics. So that's why I want everybody to understand its importance, so that we do not undermine, we do not underestimate the significance of refuge practice.
Ranju Shaving and Ranju Semajin, German Singing, Ranju Saint German Singing, Journey, Pazuni, that Ranju Saint Sympathy, Rangejo Karashavina, Ranju Saint Sympathy, never to go.
So taking refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, called Kyamdo, a refuge practice, is the foundation practice for all Buddhists across the board, across denominations, if you will. And now when we embrace Mahayana Buddhism or Bodhisattva's way of life, so in addition to refuge practice, we need to cultivate bodhichitta, or the altruistic mind of enlightenment, to engage in virtuous actions, to do our practices. And so one may not have the actual bodhicitta right now, but as Mahayana practitioners, we need to cultivate bodhicitta or the altruistic motivation. We need to have at least what we call contrived form of bodhicitta in us. And there are those who actually have bodhicitta. That's most wonderful. So the point I'm trying to make here is, as Mahayana practitioners, grounding in refuge practice, then we cultivate altruistic motivation of bodhicitta to engage in positive actions and spiritual practices.
Yogi Pandiatia and Sanjay social Sanda and it's a kind of told us some of the same but the pen Dubasheni Kanayo, that's around Chuitan, Kekalamonding Rats and Dusini, Jatin some Dusitin, they had those race.
So because of the essentialities and significance of refuge practice, Kyamdo in Tibetan, as well as development of bodhicitta, Semje, Changju Sem in Tibetan, the great Indian master Atisha he has brought these two great, spiritual paths together in a very simple verse that we could recite every day, and we are able to remind ourselves to cultivate them. So that's why, before teaching, we recite this one verse of the stanza, which simply states, I go for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha from now until I reach enlightenment. And by the power of practices such as generosity, may I, become enlightened being. And so this, particular prayer is so profound that it incorporates both refuge practice as well as bodhichitta practice.
That is then the Shampu then Shan Rajota, Dujita, Kindan, Gandhi Lajan Tarik, Zaniman Dungur, and the K Chambres. Harriesana Ane Tachu Dunki Kandichi in a Tarala and thinking that gave him the pack in a kitchen which Chagu, so she things with the Ane Lamtanji, the Tawas, and that's what you're saying, and do see any things with the Tiwa Lana and the Cresota. Sound Chaguer. So the Lamj Zawa King it in Bitsulus and Lamnagun Sakin Luciore. There's a cage and Busonsa by Jerem Buchimal Tempest, the Lamatonga Tempe, and Lamina Juji in those cine at the Shiguares. Carre Santa, Jerem Buchi, Nane Santa, Din Sota, until Anil had the United Begonta, those in Sosada and Chigene, Jerem Buchi, Dan David, the Lamina Jot and David gon Sosada and Chigur, Sosa Division.
So after taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, using Sanskrit language, then we chant a very short prayer called Guru Yoga to Lama Tsongkhapa. And this prayer is called 100 Deities in Tushita in the Buddha field, Kanden Haja in Tibetan. And so why we chant this prayer is because in the Buddhist practice and spiritual development, cultivating proper relationship with guru, qualified spiritual gurus, that's understanding, is so essential and crucial. Without such guru yoga practice, one may not be able to make much of a spiritual progress. So therefore, we chant 100 deities in Tushita or Kanden Haja, and the central figure of our visualization is Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa, who is also known as Je Rinpoche. And so we invite Lama Tsongkhapa to come before us, and in his assembly, in the presence of Lama Tsongkhapa and his assembly, we practice what is known as 7-limb practice, 7-branch practice, Yama Tumba, in the footnote, starting with prostration and concluding with dedication. There are 7 points. So through this 7-limb practice or 7-branch practice called Yama Tumba, we purify our negativities and defilements, and we accumulate merit and wisdom. So basically, this practice is geared towards purification and accumulation. And as we learn from Lamrim and other related texts, Lamrim is a Tibetan word meaning stages of path, and now it's a genre in Tibetan Buddhism, as you might call it in the West, and there are treatises called Lamrim. And right at the beginning, what Lamrims teach us is, even in the form of outlines, cultivating proper relationship with gurus is the foundation practice for one's spiritual development. and how to do that, how to cultivate a proper relationship with Guru by both thought and by deed or action. So because Guru devotion, cultivating such a relationship with Gurus is so crucially important from Buddhist perspective, especially in Mahayana Buddhism. So therefore, we do Guru Yoga, short Guru Yoga to our Guru, Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa.
So that lunch Zawa King Yimbate and Nabad Shev, Karesana, Pena Allen those many Yashine. On the Radusung of Shaving and Annie Kembota, Annie Rajung Kembota, Annie the name Mavala, Annie Radusuyama, Sonsa Kembot Nevado, Kembojitengu, Lamajitengu. Tal the Jake Shavashenta, Mango Yardina, Ral Alita, Kembojing of the Google, Sonsa, Tiba Kembota Maimpe. And the pen into Lamachung, into the Ranges Lam Tihuni, Dumba linking in a thing about the Lamachi Google.
When I emphasize the essentiality and importance of Guru Yoga practice or cultivating proper relationship with gurus, spiritual teachers or the mentors, in Tibetan called lamas, that's not something just exclusive to or unique to Mahayana Buddhism or practice. Cultivating Guru devotion is considered very important in other forms of Buddhism, such as Theravada Buddhism. Let me try to explain this with some more examples. Those individuals who take monastic ordination as monks and nuns, they have to rely upon a guru without whom they cannot receive monastic ordination in the first place. Okay, so therefore, when you go to receive monastic ordination, of course there has to be, whole assembly, but one of the important figures is what we call the abbot or Khenpo, from whom you receive ordination and who is your guru, or you have to cultivate that person as your guru.
Ane takana yigin hachita, Hali Hubin, Ketang ever the Guru Tasha Lama Gugu, Sonsata, Tibasum, Bena Yentu Ranje, Ane Tibachimashin, that Mango, that condition, Lama Martin Pajitan Mever Takanji.
And then, of course, if you want to take bodhisattva, vows and commitments, you need qualified gurus or lamas, spiritual mentors, without whom one can't, have those vows. And so, if you want to engage in tantric practice, which is the most advanced level of practice in Buddhism, it's even more important to have qualified spiritual gurus or mentors or lamas, and without whom one cannot engage in tantric practice. So across the board, across all different levels and the forms of Buddhism, we can see the important role of spiritual mentors or spiritual teachers, gurus or lamas. In short, what I'm saying here is, when we look within Buddhism, we may classify Buddhism into three different vehicles or yanas. There is what we call Shravaka Yan, or the vehicle of hearers, Nyente in Tibetan. Then there is the Pratyeka Buddha Yan, or the vehicle of solitary realizers, Rangel in Tibetan. And then there is the vehicle of bodhisattvas, or we can say Mahayana vehicle, and that is the Tepa Chenpo. And across these three vehicles of Buddhism, we see the important role of Guru in one's spiritual development and accomplishment.
Ne lama de sanji tangi debi kuin sanji tangi debi dojin zebi ngoyi kunjus lama na la shat selos ta lama la shat said zane lama chen sanji tangi debi dani ins dikse sanji tangi debi ko dojin zebi ngoyi ane ran la ta pena dojin zebi se ta nga de ane lam temba poya ant chara ins dojin zebi ngoyi kunjus sum ji zawat se kunjus sum rang kunjus sum chaji yare so that ti chaya de lama la tin shoma res dusre kunju sunji zawade shungs kunju shungsa zawa karasna lama ten shungwares.
And so Keshava just recited a prayer stanza which highlights the importance of Guru, Lama, spiritual teacher, and his role. Sangye Tamje Divaku. When we practice Guru devotion, to be simple, some people might have problem with the word devotion, but we are using it in a positive sense. Okay, in the footnote. We see our Guru or Lama as an embodiment of all enlightened beings of the Buddhas. Sangye Tamje Divaku. Guru embodies all Buddhas or enlightened beings. Okay. Now, from tantric perspective, your Guru is in the nature of, Vajradhara, the one who holds Vajra. So even more important. So your Guru or Lama is the source of all the three jewels, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Now what that means is that right now we are going for refuge in Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, but what is our goal or aspiration? Because we want to be Buddha. We want to be one of the three jewels, or all of the three jewels, as a matter of fact. So how can we become Buddha? Is by relying upon and through the help of our Guru or Lama. And in that sense, Guru is the source of three jewels. And Lama Namla Chatala, I bow down to, I salute all my Gurus or Lamas.
So that rang ani tandang anju enchami kunju sandusi pandusi sha tsigyo robas. Ta nyimaki ngaran samalo. Ani sosu ani da Gindi Concho, the Chu Concho, Ani Sanjay Concho, David Daniki, Sosu Regio, that's the top down the Yodurist. So right now, we, metaphorically speaking, are kind of facing Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha and Gurus as they are on the other side and we are on this side, and we are requesting them for blessings and inspirations, and we go for refuge in them. So that means we are really not one of them, and we emulate them and we want to be one of them. But through this kind of practice of refuge, a day will come that we ourselves become very realized beings, and now we ourselves become Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So that's our goal. That's the purpose of taking refuge now in those who are already Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Tati ne tahaske marista shamru dendusin shamru denita Sanjay Kamdi nigga yum chendol kana yoris. Takana yigati then I di woman drain Josh Ambango book, then you go to Jignal kana yoris. Tata has Teza Mazita, you mambo in kana yoris. So that Derek. Ane Shamru tell Joseph and the ships in charge yoris, G shipped on the ships in yoris.
So what I'm just explaining to you is not something I just, made it all up right on the spot. Historical teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, our historical guru, Lama, himself, talked about this, which are contained in what we call mother-like sutras, Prajna Paramita Sutras, wisdom gone beyond sutras. And also many other great Indian commentators or the realized master scholars, they have commented on Buddha's original teachings. And for example, we find explanation about the refuge practice in Maitreya's ornament for clear realizations, or Apisamaya Alankara, in Tibetan. And so in these different authentic texts, what do we find is this, that practice of refuge, Chamdo consists of two things. Kujab, causal refuge, cause, as in cause and effect, causal refuge, and Dejab, which is Kujab in Tibetan. Dejab means resultant refuge.
So that 这一小时当那种首先对了三年工作是不是都是没有办法写呢？但少等呢。那说是相对些的些是的，上节新比的上节这些，当然一个根据工作人呢，拍背看啥的，讨论讨论些些，但是说是有根据呢，但相对写过来，面对学员呢，他把连他们根据工作人他讨论讨论些个的，他全工作了说是等这个让这里也变高了，等高点到南点等着，全工作下个，所以说。对两个人都相对，他谈的就是生的，说是谈的呀，过程的时候东西里小肉那些，想看个，他说的呀，对，让个对的说的呀，就是差个。
So if you ask what is the difference between causal refuge and resultant refuge, these are technical terms, as you can see. But causal refuge, we mean is that right now we ourselves are not, the three jewels. So we visualize all the Buddhas, those who have already become Buddhas, enlightened beings, or other realized beings, as the objects of refuge. And that's, they become what we call the jewel of Buddhas. And then we take refuge in Sangha. Sangha consists of two, ordinary Sangha and transcendental Sangha. The ultimate Sangha consists of those who are called Aryas or transcendental beings, meaning those who have gained direct experience, realization of emptiness, the ultimate nature of phenomena. So these are the ultimate Sangha, transcendental Sangha members. Who are the actual Sangha members. Then we also take refuge in ordinary Sanghas, monks and nuns, as a symbolic, Sangha. So, and then, whatever realizations others already have gained, Buddhas and, Sanghas, and particularly like their paths of, their true paths, and their true cessation of suffering, Gokten and Lamten, from the Four Noble Truths. These are the Dharma, in whom we take refuge. So that in a nutshell, what I'm talking about is the causal refuge refers to others, others who have already become three jewels, Buddhas, Sangha and, Dharma, and we go for refuge in them. So they become our causal, objects of refuge.
Rani Mamupana, Ane Pagbe Palam Tojuaris, Palam Tobicas, Ta Ane Ranita Gindikunjung the Chandu.
So as we take refuge in others who are already, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in the future, we ourselves can, experience transcendental wisdom, transcendental path. In other words, we ourselves can experience emptiness directly or non-conceptually. So at that time, we ourselves become what called ultimate Sangha or transcendental Sangha members.
Ta Mamapana Rang Ranjula and Golam Chidemba, Golam Lam Chidemba Tang Gove Demba, Takari Lam Ranjuli Shevash, Gova, Mundu Kadishesuna, and Ranjula, Tak Chukunju. I Chavata, Chukunjunga.
So through our practice, when we ourselves in the future experience what is known as true paths and true cessation, so the footnote from the Four Noble Truths, true paths and true cessation of suffering, then these internal realizations of ours constitute what we call real Dharma within us. So they constitute what we call resultant Dharma. Don't you want to be sharing the same? Taki Songreshin, the Yansulani Sanji Kombaka de Tobiana, and they Shab Sanji Chavita. So through cultivating the three principal paths, renunciation, bodhichitta or altruism, and emptiness or wisdom gone beyond, as we cultivate these paths within our own mind, and we further these paths within our mind and cultivate them to infinity, so that's how we reach complete enlightened state. Whenever that happens, now we ourselves have become Buddhas or the jewel of Buddhas. So this is what called resultant objects of refuge, resultant Buddhas.
No, that's Shamdra Shiri Sani, Rang Kungus, Duna Kubi, Sani Kunjusubu, and then Maupana Rang, so Sani Kunjusubu, then Junjuki, the Yamdishu Shamdra, Yamdishu Shegi.
So when we practice refuge, when we go for refuge in the three jewels, we go for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, in the sense like those who have already become Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha as our causal objects of refuge. Simultaneously, we also go for refuge in the resultant objects of refuge, meaning that, our future Buddhahood, when ourselves will become Buddha, our future Dharma, when we ourselves internalize or actualize Dharma, and our future, Sanghahood, when we ourselves become real Sangha. So when we practice refuge, you see, we are taking refuge in both causal objects of refuge and resultant objects of refuge simultaneously.
Then, Shamdra the Hidake, Gachambores, that Tonta person, Toma Gacha, number to refuge. Many part of the culture, and it chung, that what temperature. And that's Tamande, and it Gachambucha, Tonta person, Gachambucha, so the Shamdra Namesi Jamaris.
So what I'm trying to get across to you is this, that Kyamdo, refuge practice, is very important for us in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end of our spiritual development or journey. How is it important at the beginning? It's only by way of taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha that we become Buddhist practitioners, we ourselves become Buddhist. In the middle, practice of refuge nurtures our spiritual development. That's how it is important in the middle. And then at the end, practice of refuge brings our path or the spiritual development to the state of fruition. And that's where we ourselves become Buddhas. So that's why refuge practice is so important, to us in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. So by understanding that, we must not consider refuge practice as something simple and basic and kind of elementary.
No. That Gandhi Lajan any Lamin Nanjur the so Jerumuchi Gongri. So spend Jarumuchita, Manazo Kata, so any Chendek Lama in and Data, Mujuk Lama Samalo, only Jerumuchi, but start Karsegor, Timidavachi. They can't get Yamdi show Choya somebody, Yamdi show yes, somebody, Chevrolet. Jeremy Jamba, the social Lamata said that the Milama Kandichi, Yana, and any Jerumuchi and Wati Washini, this Yamdi Swata with some machine and Yahweh, Chevrolet.
So when we do the simple and short Guru Yoga practice of Jerumbuche, Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa, which is called 100 Deities in Tushida, Kadampa in Tibetan, of course, our central figure is Lama Tsongkhapa. That's who we see and we visualize. But we also need to understand, have to think that either Lama Tsongkhapa that we visualize in front of ourselves is an embodiment of all other gurus, that we have cultivated either directly or is an embodiment of both gurus we ourselves have cultivated personally, called direct lineage, and also embodiment of lineage masters or the gurus, meaning our gurus' gurus. And so that's very important. So we see all our gurus as being inseparable in terms of entity with Lama Tsongkhapa or Manjushri. Or alternatively, we could also visualize all other gurus are gurus from whom we have received teachings directly and personally, as well as lineage gurus in the assembly of Lama Tsongkhapa.
That Lama the Lama Ten Sane, so any tongue Arab Samalok, Lama the Lama Ten Sane, Laloke, the way Yat Sason, and it tell ya, Yan Lama the condition as a paying around so that number Tawa image is some tongue mato, to imagine around Julie and this year the cowboy on rest. The but the Lambrun and Son was thing I
So before we cultivate someone as our guru or lama or spiritual teacher, we should take time to investigate the matter, as you might say, and find out whether we feel comfortable and cultivating someone as a guru, or whether that person has all the qualities that guru should have that we would like to cultivate, we would like to have. So in other words, we have all the freedom and time, right, everything to test, before we make the bond or connection. But once we make the decision and we cultivate relationship with someone as our guru, from then onward, it's important for us to keep our relationship very pure. Not to now kind of have some kind of a second thought or a doubt or a suspicion about our guru. Oh, okay, what is this? When we have that kind of a doubt or a suspicion or second thought, so that becomes very spiritually detrimental. If we don't trust our guru, right, and then how can we make a spiritual progress? So we can't. So that is spiritually detrimental. So the point I'm making is there's no rush to, accept someone as a guru. Take all the time one needs, investigate it properly, everything. But once we make the connection, okay, so I think today's language would be, Geshe didn't say it, but we cannot have a change of heart.
So that, there is. When I am a lamb gong kitchen, those star lamb gone to Korea, gom jep, Messi away. You're at the only Tobasan is run you shake memory. Messi and the Dukan Kelly Johnson, human. She died any journey. Gom didn't do those gongu at the inner. And they are always shaking the Karina Yakus and that. Surround it and do sin that. Do Susila and the Chunding with the Talamas and do the Gomjani. I'm going to West. That Kong Chinga, that can see. The Gamma and Gong Mess. Never any tick that, Lama tick any hammer the radish was it. You said Chimbale Chani. Somebody says that day, so you tell ya Gong Meso, Gong Mever, that Gong Meson. Fibre. At that day, so you go in the Gong Kuskan. Gomba Mazi, so you go in the Gong Kuskan and any. Then is that Dukan Galijan to Dukan Manayi, Gondis and any double Julius Chevres, do the Lamrugan and Doa.
Let me tell you an anecdotal story that is captured in Lamrim to illustrate my point. Once there was a very good Lamrim practitioner or meditator, yogi. Very good, meaning that, he was really sincere in his meditation and he was very dedicated. And so he was a good meditator. But even though he was a good meditator and he meditated for a long time, for some reason he wasn't making progress in his spiritual development. So then he decided to go and see a very realized master. I think it was called Dukan Gyelek Gyaltsen, a very renowned master. So he went to see the master and and get guidance or advice. And then Dukan Gyelek Gyaltsen asked him, he said, in your Lamrim meditation, do you visualize all of your gurus or lamas, in the merit field? As a matter of fact, Dukan Gyelek Gyaltsen was highly realized that he could see with his, there was a problem in the meditator's practice. And the meditator said, no. What happened was, he said, I excluded one guru from my visualization because before he was a monk, and then he disrobed. So somehow, he excluded that guru from his visualization practice. And then Drupal Gelege advised him very strongly. He said, well, you need to put him back into your merit field. And not only that, you include him in your visualization, but make him the central figure, the important figure, the key figure in your, guru visualization. And so he went back and he did that, and that made all the difference. And then he had a breakthrough, and he was able to, have a deep insight and realization.
So that Lama Lucinite Lama La Tana Jung Kabitats and Lama Sanjay Sumugu Lama La Tana Jubicala Rang Nolang ever may pass in Saki yours. The thing ever the Kacham Chagger, still transfer any dinner Turks, and Turks.
So in the Lamrim, section on Guru devotion practice, how we need to cultivate what we call pure perception of gurus or lamas. There are many ways we can do that, and one of the things mentioned is that we need to understand that often our perceptions are not certain or reliable. In other words, things appear to our perceptions do not necessarily, necessarily be the truth. Because our perceptions are biased and they are unreliable in many ways. So Geshe would advise us to go back to the Lamrim section and, so go through that and find out.
That in the young dinosaur, Nyamba Min, Nyambit, Shawa Min, Shavit, Skana, or the Yena, Maranzo, Taji is in the Taji was Chagres.
And so because as, in the authentic Buddhist text, we find that gurus could manifest in many different forms. We don't know. Sometimes they manifest as a disabled people, Looks like they have a feet problem. They are limping. Or that, they look like a bit of a crazy, loony. That's how they just kind of, appear to us or manifest, for certain reasons. So we really need to take time to investigate and find out the truth. And you see, we might make a big mistake between, those who are very true and sincere practitioners and those who are hypocrites. Sometimes just, maybe the hypocrites look more genuine than the real practitioners. So we really need to be careful. We need to investigate our own perceptions. We need to investigate the truth. Those who have, truly renounced samsara and worldly concerns and activities, and those who are just street people, sometimes like, who don't have that kind of renunciation, but look like they renounce because they are beggars, street people. If we're not careful, we may not be able to understand the differences between these two types of people. Those who choose to be poor but renounce samsara completely. But then those who want everything but can't have it, but they're poor. But they both look alike from the outside. See? So we need to really investigate all these issues. And so we might not get confused between who are the real doctors and who are the crazies.
So Zangaran Somaloka, when he treat number Tawachita, Dunkin Chitan Garanso, Maranso is number of what you do today. Gigante and Chin number of Dunkin. Ranta drawn Dunkin and Chin number of Dunkin. That Juna, that Ganga, someone put away which Google your race.
Well, in an ideal world, so to speak, ideally, this is what we want in an ideal world, that we need teachers who are very qualified and who are really sincerely and enthusiastically doing their practice. Great examples for us. That we ourselves want to be really sincere practitioners of Dharma, that we are not being hypocrites or just kind of faking out. We want our Dharma friends and people we hang out, to be really sincere practitioners and not just kind of, have some kind of agenda, hidden agendas. And that's what we want. But that's like a perfect world, ideal world, we are kind of envisioning.
Say, wrong with Dorjee, Lenga Dozani, Tanguni to wrong with Dorjee, any pay you nine Seguyamari. Wrong with Dorjee, make it so I wrote the Mudu Lang, a case, a Segua Chesa, Nike me said, Sick Jason Chan, Shijama, you take the taxation. Koranka Kaniki in the Mete, this Carson Arazi, Ale Tamboni, Yammer, call Koran said you think you zog do it in. Do the day Koran said Redina, I assumed.
So, we need to investigate things thoroughly before we accept things as truth. There could be people, who are very good in claiming rhetorically that they are realized, they are so and so, this and that. And then if we just kind of buy into the rhetorics, we don't investigate matters, so we could be duped. Because, they're very nice talkers, so they know what to talk and how to talk and what to say and how to say, and so we just, buy into things. And they might make all kinds of claims of realizations. So what we really need to do is investigate, take time and say whether these people have the qualities that they claim that they have. And then if through our investigation we find out that that's true, they have the qualities they said they have, okay, then that's good. Okay, so we have no problem with that. So we can make whatever connection we desired. On the other hand, if there are people simply making claims, but they really don't have qualities, all they're talking about, so then we do not want to get duped into, their claims. And there's a story of, I think it's a great story in Indian, literature. It's called the story of Vetali. It's almost like a precious zombie story. So one time, I think king went after that precious zombie called Vetali, and if you can capture it, then you can pretty much fulfill all your wishes. Yeah? So when he went in search of that zombie and found in the area where there are so many zombies, everyone who was not the real precious one, they said, "Hey, I'm here, catch me, I'm the real one." But the one who was really the true precious zombie, Vetali, is the one who just ran away. So I'm not the one. Okay. So this is how it is. Those who are fake claim to be real, and those who are real, they claim not to be real. And so we really need to investigate matters, before we accept things. In Tibet, meaning good old days, Geshe didn't say that. Like if there were like some monks, or let's say they make false claim as if they are visionary, or they have some kind of a psychic power, or they say they have some kind of a vision or a dream, or they see weird things and claim to be something special. Well, what do they get? They get kicked out of the monastery.
Tang Munning in a cover Dev Matu, not the US in the Shechung Maris, King Maris.
And those who are truly realized and maybe have some kind of clairvoyances, they never declare or advertise. They're just quiet, in a monastery.
No less. That Kazikian something that Cage about outside restaurants, Transantons. Cage and Moran do not sound something. Kishimore Meduna, and Yago Yamarasta, until Jack Lagwashin, the tanks.
So somehow, I thought these are some of the important things and I should share with you this morning, although this has taken time from me to go back to the text, Kadampa Master's text, and continue from where we left. But I thought this is really pretty important stuff for all of us. And if you do see their importance, please, keep it in your mind and put it into practice. But if you see that, these are not really important, or you disagree with what I just explained, then you don't have to bother paying attention to these things. You can just leave them aside, No. So the metaphor Geshe used, he said, I did not translate the metaphor. I don't think it works in English, but let me say, if you are walking in a windy place and the wind is blowing like anything, your ears are flapping like anything, but you don't pay attention to the wind. Anyway, it is behind your ear flaps, behind your ear. So just let it be. Yeah. So your ears are fluttering like flag, but the winds are blowing. So do you care? Pay attention to the wind. Does that help? No. Just let it be.
Yes. Okay. 당연히 kasi 됐다 조제 근도신 단 sombre. 가서 저번 휴차래다 다 전주가 마 랭칼이나들 전주지 샤와 통바 인스 가나보다. 다 전주가 나니 초지바 가르서는 샤와 통바 인스 봐. 샤가드 수수에네 배에다 le tamba ting segundo. Ali tema to yomana ali tanda zondu ke cho karre sena shawa tomba yin serba. Shawa tomba so shawa le tomba yin. Le tong ji shawa ta shawa de chen de gang ke shawa tang shawa shima ke tanda ke shawa kin yin yorba. Je chen de gang ke shawa le tong kis kan ko yor.
Going back to this wonderful text called Miscellaneous Collection of Kadampa Geshe's Advices. Last time, remember, Atisha was, giving answers to the questions, but he was also explaining what he thought are the best forms of perfections. And we already talked about patience, and the next one he talks about is enthusiastic perseverance, called tsundu in Tibetan. Sometimes people translate as diligence. And Atisha said the best form of diligence or enthusiastic perseverance is to give up activities or actions. What does it mean? Meaning that, to give up worldly activities of this lifetime. So first we need to understand what does tsundu mean, which is translated as diligence. So I don't think the diligence really captures the connotation that Tibetan term has, or the original Buddhist term has. So tsundu is defined as, that's why I use the word enthusiastic perseverance. Tsundu, is defined as the enthusiasm or a joy to engage in virtue. In other words, when we feel happy to do something positive virtue, you like it, you are very enthusiastic, that's what we call tsundu, enthusiastic perseverance, or tsundu in Tibetan.
Yeah, so that shawa tomba yin se sen de hang ge shawe de ni pegeta zamba chimbu shu changbu singe ji ro de zunju je ge ya ma ga re se na ge la zhou yin de ma de ge ya ma was je dang ge zawa de singe na de do zunju ji ngo ga re se shawa tomba yin se de shawa tongju de ga re se sen de hang ge shawa de yo dang bu song za de chen di shawa le pe shu changbu zamba shu changbu se de zunju je ge do wa de ge ya ma re.
So, if we translate tsundu is diligence, diligence doesn't capture the whole range of meaning that tsundu has. And often people some kind of equate Tsundu with working hard. Well, that's not it. You could be working really hard, like anything, for this lifetime and the worldly activities, but that's not Tsundu, you see, that we are talking about here. So people who are working so hard, who are very diligent to fulfill the worldly needs of this lifetime, we don't deny that they are very enthusiastic, they are very working hard, they are going like crazy in what they do. Geshe didn't say that, but that's, we know what it means in America. But that's not Tsundu. But Tsundu, according to Adisha, the best form of enthusiastic perseverance is to give up, to let go worldly activities of this lifetime.
So that did it. They that grant the Yundi Chijun Kandija Rangi Chevy in there.
Enthusiastic perseverance or Tsundu plays a very important role for us to accomplish both small and big qualities and realizations.
The imba carries and the Pandit Dawa Trova Goman Yuan Kanando. You take Malu Tsundu Gyendroshins. You take Chijun Kandi in the Malupa Yonzo. And the Tsundu Geshes Dogres Tsundu Yamila Raligaris Kano.
As great Indian master Acharya Chandrakirti states in his supplement to the Middle Way, Madhyamik Avatar, Yunden Malu Tsundu Chedoshin. Yunden, all qualities. Malu, nothing left out, that is all qualities. Tsundu Chedoshin, they follow, they come from, they arise from enthusiastic perseverance or Tsundu. So if we have Tsundu, enthusiastic perseverance as we have just defined, then we are able to have all kinds of remarkable qualities.
That is you to tend to you tell me Tsundu Gyendroshi. So them lodgers on the need to juice. So them just saw that he junior body. He just so them just saw that he just sago. Sabata, Leane, Tsundu Gs Dogres, Tsundu shoot up with you. Never the Gogres can.
And the next line also says that enthusiastic perseverance is a cause that produces the two types of accumulation of merit, punya, and accumulation of wisdom or jnana. Because, what we are really seeking as practitioners is we need these two types of accumulation of merit and accumulation of insight or wisdom. And these accumulations also follow from, or they arise from, enthusiastic perseverance.
Around the Yendo was Zope, as Sanji Juku, Toba Shebalata, Tundu Ralling, Tundu Mena, Toy Meberta, Kanji.
In order to accomplish perfect enlightened bodies for our own sake and for the sake of others, we must cultivate and enhance enthusiastic perseverance.
The current is in a Tundu Mena, Tony Savala, Tundu Government, Sukat Nansa Swans Dishi. Jubani Jango, he did the Yundi, put them the any Rangi in Marana. Sanji Gomba to you, but the Taba Shevala, the Diakata, and then what's the Shego, what the Taba and Yambo Tenko, just a Yambo Tembala, 20 minutes, and then Yambo Tenko. Then I answer.
Enthusiastic perseverance, of course, is so essential in our spiritual practices and development. What I just explained is from positive, complementary perspective, that in order for us to accumulate merit, to accumulate insight or wisdom, we need enthusiastic perseverance. So that's from positive angle. Now, in order to get rid of mental obscurations, we also need enthusiastic perseverance. In other words, like for us to become Buddhas, enlightened beings, we have to completely abandon the two types of mental obscuration. One is called deluded states of mind or delusion, mental obscuration preventing liberation or nirvana, and mental obscuration preventing omniscience. And so in order to get rid of these two mental obscurations from our mind system, we need enthusiastic perseverance, without which we are not going to be able to counteract, apply antidotes to these two types of mental obscuration. We also need to cultivate enthusiastic perseverance consistently, like an uninterrupted flow of water or river. Now, what I mean is that if we don't develop consistency in cultivating enthusiastic perseverance or engaging in virtue enthusiastically, then what may happen is that for a few days we are enthusiastic like anything to do virtue. Then after that, we take a break and, don't do it. Then we try to become enthusiastic again. Then we interrupt and break it. So in that way, how should I say, we face obstacles and impediments on our spiritual journey. And example Geshe are given to use is like, somebody who's really sick and has got a medication to fight that sickness, but take the medication today, then forget it for the next 2 days, and then take another dosage, then forget another. I mean that's not a good way, see, to deal with your sickness. If you want to get cure your sickness quickly, you have to take the whole course, right? Complete your medication. So like that, we need to cultivate enthusiastic perseverance consistently.
That's only the Shelling Hakovishi. That Jundu Mundisho the Hakogres. Jundu Mundisho Cardesana Lelotres. That Lelotel number Sumduxiores, the Chegres.
So I have defined what enthusiastic perseverance is. In other words, now you know what enthusiasm or Tsundu means conceptually. Okay, what is Tsundu and what does it do? What is its function? So we talked a little bit about these two things. Now let me also tell you the other side of the Tsundu. In other words, what are the opposites of Tsundu? What does Tsundu do? It fights laziness. So we need to understand what laziness is, or what the different types of laziness. And there are 3 types of laziness mentioned in Buddhist literature.
No, that is Mudel, Shawa Shikyo losing it. Shawa Shikyo Lelos Karisana, Ali. Ki goda do the dugu the ina 3 dugume 2 somaso and then dawandili somason dawa humachin dawa humata somas dation and then lord dili somasta loguma dress and those in pe bijatani and then pe and then chue la the lema super shen pe chanjan ninja so pas zebetelta that's shawa shikyo lele wang zogures.
There is a form of laziness called laziness of procrastination. In Tibetan called chishul. So laziness of procrastination, what it does is, you may feel that, okay, I know Dharma is really important to practice, but I don't have time today, so I'll do tomorrow. So tomorrow comes, well, today I'm even more busier here, so not this week, I'll do next week. And the next week is the same thing. Well, somehow this month I'm really busy, I have so many things to do, so I'll do next month. And the next month I said, well, this year is kind of really hard on me, so I'm going to do the next year. So like that, we procrastinate our practice for a later time, and then we might run out of time and we never get to practice. So this is due to our laziness. It's called laziness of procrastination.
배우 라마이 가 나요레스 그 세주 마진 니슈 손스 그 세주 시야가 스타페자니 산만 코아진 로니 친 손스
Let me tell you what one of the great, great lamas of Tibet said. He said, for the first 20 years just passed by, not even thinking of, of Dharma or practicing Dharma. And then the next 20 years passed by, just simply thinking that, yes, I need to practice, but then the next 20 years passed by. And then the next 20 years, he said, well, I kind of, did a hodgepodge practice, kind of, not really, but okay, not really okay. So kind of in a wishy-washy, practice, and next 20 years passed by. He said, well, 60 years passed by now. So he said, now I'm just too old, and that's it.
So he said, this
is the empty story of my life.
So nganzo tende si jua marata nganzo le sombre korang ten na yon me ham ko na yoj mare te yin na te korang tende shin suni re soni so ya te ngaran so le pe gon sombre.
And I don't think that was really, he was telling the story of his real life. I think he must be a really good practitioner. But probably he is telling the story of us at this time. He could be telling our story, not his own. So we had to be careful. Otherwise, by the end of the life, we realized that time has passed by and the life is just empty. So that's what happens when the laziness of procrastination hits us all the time. Well, let me just kind of, bring this other thing, where we're really good probably at doing it. When it comes to eating, right, basic necessities of life, how many times do we say that, today I don't have time to eat, but I'll eat tomorrow instead,
That's the thing. That, shawa, security level, shawa, Alete Ziluk Pilanos, and Hula. Alete Ziluk Pilanos. Ziluk Pilanos said that Tugumari is something. Should do the do good time, he do Tugumari, then everywhere I would never do Tugumari. Lol Sina say Tugumari, Gomjan J. Tugumari Sani, Petani, Madrukon, Chene. And it done Tambo Chene, Chilal, Malinkon, and done Pekaya, and Ziluk Pilanos, and take it out of Maris.
So another form of laziness in Tibetan is called Jilupelelo, which has been translated as laziness of indolence, or according to explanation, it's like laziness of underestimation. And according to Geshe's explanation given, it's like, even before we start study of Dharma or practice of Dharma, we just kind of undermine ourselves, thinking that, I'm not that intelligent. I don't have the intelligence to study Dharma or practice Dharma. Or that, I don't have the ability to do meditation. And so we somehow put ourselves down to the extent that, it becomes a laziness, and we never, maybe it's like, we become very anxious, right, from the beginning. Anxiety attack from the beginning, from the get-go, thinking that I can do it because of this, because of that.
So that legally saying, any socially request chowa. That be when you look chowa, busy chat and joke. Do to some town. And yeah, control thing I live about choker, control I live Secretary to what secretary. Control church do thank you to Mr. Carres and do some congress.
So we need to boost up our spirit in such a case. Look around. There are people maybe whose abilities are maybe even, less than one's own, or who are extremely busy, much more busy than oneself, but somehow they make time. They find time to do their study and practice of Dharma. So if they could do it, why can't I? See, so we need to, we need to inspire ourselves. Or somebody who is in advanced age might make age as an excuse. Say that, what, I'm old, I can't do it. So ageism is, being used as rational for like, okay, I can't do it. Well, maybe look around, because we can always find those who are, a little older than ourselves, at least. So if these people who are older than me, some of them even began to do practice now. The whole life they didn't do it. For some reason, now they become very enthusiastic and they're doing it. So why can't I? I'm at least a few years younger than them. So I can do it. So we have to somehow, draw inspiration from other people's practices, other people, and inspire ourselves.
Papa Langchung was singing again, Dungeon do senior, that is something worse. Karesan, Rivat Chowachi, Dulpang, Tramapang, Satin, do seni, Tambo Labdisani, Dulpang, Labdisan, Labdisani, Tramapang Gendover. Tramapang, Labdisani, Nema Leg at Dulpang Gendover. That in those in Bay, New Twinny, those lovely tap, you might keep Kuranga to love Shevashori. That those any attention, Totan Dawata. Lord the lotion in those children, you tell any corner Machi Pol, Tagoma Mazoko, Jackie Combatobro. The day you are as that don't you to Zongaranso Pembachi race, just that the really penguin.
And then there are, in the Buddhism, there are many inspiring stories of other practitioners, and so we could draw inspirations from those stories. For example, there's the story of what we call Papa Lamjung. Papa means transcendental. Lamjung means it's just kind of a nickname called a small path, on somebody on a small path. So what happened was, to begin with, this individual, before becoming a transcendental being, was so dumb that he couldn't, he couldn't keep two little things together in his mind. He went to learn about Dharma, and the teacher taught him just two simple things, said Tulpang, Timapang. Tulpang meaning, abandon dust, and Timapang, remove stains. So, but in Tibetan it's even easier, like Tulpang, Timapang, how difficult is that? But when he said Tulpang, he forgets the Timapang. And he said the Timapang, he forgets the next one. He just couldn't keep just two simple things in his mind. But then he just, kept his enthusiasm to recite these two lines and whatever the assignments, he was given to do. And then at the end of his life, he become an Arya. Or he become an Arahat, meaning that he attained Nirvana at the end of his life. So as dumb as we would say, Papa Lamjung could become an Arahat, so why can't I?
Well, Tati Sumbatari, Shawang Hinchilos. Nothing around Sonal Dukchayors. The Shawang Embala Chani, Dubu Duguel Trade Madruba Shen, Shawang Embala Chat. Ane Eteretan. That's so sweet. Send the Hankis Lega the Shawang and Chow, Chula Devi, that's young of a child, Shawang Embal, that really Hene. Ane the Gata, Tamjuta, Tahanangeta, Loyan, the Gay Chadolas of the data. The daily peta, Tawa de Shene, so sweet, Semke. Give it swallow Roma to Bashet, that Tawa does intonation to give me say, don't see showing that Calicobres, showing against Lelos, showing Embala Chapi Lelo, Ning Hembas a Chavare, showing against Lerota, the Zul want to Masuma Shagres Canando.
So we have talked about two types of laziness of underestimation, and laziness of procrastination, and another form of laziness is all called laziness or being attached to frivolous activities. So this form of laziness, again, is a form of attachment. Frivolous activities meaning, compared to spiritual or dharma activities, our worldly activities are considered frivolous because they really do not have meaning in an ultimate sense. So if we become too busy with worldly stuff and things, whatever it is, maybe just, and never really think of anything positive or do anything positive, but always like, party, singing, dancing, play music, I don't know, go gambling and just, do all the things, the worldly stuff, and get attached to those activities, then it's a form of laziness that we never get a time to do practice, never get a time to do something positive.
Tende mabashita ko soso pe de chata tende ko wang so ta tende shawang bale chane chen da ga togu tam su tende ta du sine chabi yin ta shang bale chabar ba.
But I must clarify one thing here. Of course, the motivation plays a very important and essential role in what we do. I don't mean to say that, if you just, spend whole life singing and dancing and playing and gambling and, all this other stuff, all of these things necessarily have to be frivolous and meaningless. But that also depends on one's motivation. If one has an altruistic motivation, that is to benefit others, so out of motivation to benefit others, then one could be singing, dancing, do any, which seem like worldly activities, but they may have different meaning. They may not necessarily be frivolous activities. But what I mean to say is that without altruistic motivation or the motivation to benefit others, out of attachment, if one spends all life doing that, nothing but that, then doesn't matter. Maybe it's for your own living, to earn your living, but there's really no altruistic motivation, then that could become frivolous activity.
Ta tren te no je te jage ta tren ta kan hyu be zo ni pe ta ngara zo chama lo ngara zo chama lo pe ta chue ni sung ba kan se nyam so len kan tu she go yo.
So I'll stop there today, and I want to remind all of ourselves that whatever we learn from Dharma, we need to try our best to put it into practice.
Rang jute chue dan java ji go yo ta rang ju chue dan java ji shung na chue dan ta chue dan ga ye de le ga shi ma wa sa je za rang ju chue da pan java ji ta ten de ji go go so sa mal mi ji je da.
So the bottom line is this: we need to see that our mind and Dharma, they become one, merged into one another. And so in that way, we really leave Dharma, and so that, Dharma and our life and the mind do not have what we call disparities or a gap in between. So that's what we need to do.
No.
Okay, Gemju do that.
Hola, está Karina.
Gemju check the medication that big sayum chambus jab so again.
That's sayum jab.
Me she was strong do this tene never nye li Gemju te sure shalom.
Never ming do el.
Da do ge shu sha.
So that.
So I guess I would like to ask everyone to join in his prayers. That, as probably everyone knows now, that there was a big earthquake in Islamabad nearby, and which, according to reports, at least 18,000 people died, and still the numbers are increasing. Maybe another 45,000 casualties, and numbers are still increasing. And another big tragedy hit our world. So we would like to, remember the victims of this earthquake tragedy, and pray for their good rebirths. I mean, it's not only hit India, but as you might have if you listen to news, like it hit also the Jammu and Kashmir part of India, that region, also some Himalaya regions. There were a number of casualties there. And then I have two people's name here given. Ryan Webb, 19 years old, is very sick. And Win Quang Bui, 77-year-old, is hospitalized. So we would like to send our prayers for them.
They make sure that Senji Pen Busi, Tanguni to the Sayamambo. Sena Tanguni to the share was the thing. Narazo Danda, Samuel Janda, he was me, the Garcia, Rakba of Zero was the Tongo at the King girls. Yena, that's how good is the pay money to make it say, chewing that the nation in the bamboo cube is the only judge Malamadash. Showing a rest, you think come Dille. That is some of the Petan do Sine. And they are Naked that King it is running Andrew Mandre at the Dendu Compartoya. Dendu Comparton is on the Sanji Chilton Gyeltsen. Not the Liga and Bearing Ben, Sanji Compartoya, the Liga, and he covered the Dembayon, some shit. And they are not in the day that you may you attend the unit, they make you attend the unit, and so you tell up the you want any pay in Joya Tashi or the Manjagurish.
So one of the things, Geshe, I want to say and mention is, yes, we feel very sad and that so many innocent people's lives have been adversely affected. Many people lost their lives, and many have been the properties is damaged, and a lot of casualties. But as we think about them, we also need to understand, like in different parts of the world, many different tragedies happen. But one of the things we might often forget is, like for example, we have brush fire in California. We often talk about how much danger that brings to the human community. But what about the other forms of life, insects, other birds, and other animals, who are in the same environment? Because they also die in hundreds and thousands. But of course, there is no news coverage of them, and we don't talk about them because we don't see them. What we see is the building destruction and the dead bodies, but we don't see insects, dead bodies being carried or counted. So we really need to think about all beings who lose their life and send our prayers, for them. So those who have lost their lives in this, tragedy, we wish them good rebirth in their next life. So may they be fortunate to be able to come under care and guidance of compassionate and qualified gurus, and may through their own spiritual enthusiasm and practice be able to become Buddhas in their future lives. Those who are terribly sick and maybe who have hopes to be recover from their sickness, we send our prayers for them to be able to get well soon and then be able to engage in positive actions.
Ola tangara zo kyokini shibi gegi zawla teni sanji tenparu mochi tajo yoni zo nea bata. Ani jawa igi nabi zubi tenzi shibi tamanashi, kusi risu ma shibi tenzi shibi tamanashi, kusi kepe tenpa tuji ina zida mebe liru yunga ta. Ani kyoji jiwa pomanashi kundi jawa nami isan tenru bata. Giti come to the Hindu, Mintibi Sota the Hini, Tinchin, Sota the Mimi.
By the power of our collective marriage, may Dharma, the source of benefits and happiness, flourish throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great holy and spiritual masters live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual aspirations. May this and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality.
Dona, Magasingi Tamji. In
short, we dedicate our collective marriage for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state soon. Tenzin chapter shows again. That is Sumjulia can teach you again. Oh, the Shoga can Sumju your way.
Shoki Yamar, Shoki Sanima can do it.
Sanima, but again. The Tenshu, the choosing about it, one year like Niva, the Shoga and Shoga.
Shoki, Niba Yama.